These are steps to solve linear equations in one variable. If the expression on either side of the equation has like terms, combine those like terms. Secondly, move all variable terms to one side of the equation and all constant terms to the other side of the equation using the addition property of equality. Thirdly, get the variable by itself on one side of the equation using the multiplication property of equality. Finally, check the answer in the original equation. If that answer produces a true statement, then the answer is the solution. Solve the equation 7x plus 2 equals 23. Then check the solution. The original equation is 7x plus 2 equals 23. In order to isolate the term with the variable x, we will add negative 2 to both sides of the equation. 2 plus negative 2 is 0. Sometimes we can write 7x plus 0, but generally that'll be a waste of time. So we will more often than not just write 7x. 23 plus negative 2 is the same thing as 23 minus 2, which is 21. So we have 7x equals 21. To solve for x, since x is being multiplied by 7, we will apply the inverse operation of multiplication, which is division, dividing both sides of this equation by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1 times x, so we have 1 times x equals, but again 1 times x is more simply written x. I'm not going to write 1 times x. I'll simply write x. And 21 divided by 7 is 3. So our solution is x equals 3. To check, we're going to take this 3, put it right up here where we see an x. So instead of 7 times x, we have 7 times 3 plus 2 equals 23. Is that a true statement? Well, 21 is the result of 7 times 3, and 21 plus 2 is indeed 23. So that means x equals 3 is the solution. Solve the equation 5x minus 9 equals negative 24. Then check the solution. In order to isolate this term with x in it, we're going to deal with this subtraction of 9. We're going to think of it as a negative 9, and we're going to add its opposite, which is positive 9, adding positive 9 to both sides of this equation. Negative 9 plus 9 is 0, and we get 5x on the left-hand side of the equation. Negative 24 plus 9 is equal to negative 15. To solve for x, realizing that 5x means 5 times x, and that we should apply the inverse of multiplication, which is division, we divide both sides of this equation by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. We have 1 times x, or more simply x, equals 15 divided by 5 is 3, and negative divided by positive is negative. So x equals negative 3 is the solution. We're going to take negative 3, write it back up here for x. So instead of 5 times x, we have 5 times negative 3, and then minus 9 equals negative 24. Multiplying first, 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. Negative 15 minus 9, does that equal negative 24? Over at negative 15 on the number line, minus means move to the left. That's even deeper into negative territory. 9 units. We get negative 24. A true statement means that x equals negative 3 is the solution. Solve the equation 2/3 x minus 2 equals 10. We're going to isolate this x term by dealing with this negative 2, or subtraction of 2. We deal with this subtraction of 2 through the inverse operation of subtraction, which is addition, and we will add 2 to both sides of this equation. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. The left side of the equation reads 2/3 x equals, and on the right side of the equation we have 12. So 2/3 x equals 12, or 2/3 times x equals 12. The fastest way to solve this is to multiply by the reciprocal of this coefficient 2/3. The reciprocal of 2/3 is 3/2. So we will multiply both sides by 3/2. And 3/2 times 2/3, that's 1. And 1 times x is simply x. So we have x equals 3/2 times 12. 12, being a whole number, is equivalent to 12 divided by 1. To multiply fractions, we multiply through the numerators. 3 times 12, that gives us 36. 2 times 1 is 2. And 36 divided by 2 is 18. So our solution is x equals 18. Solve the equation 0.5x plus 5.2 equals 3.6. We're going to isolate this x term by dealing with this term that's added to it. Added to this x term is a positive term. The inverse of addition of 5.2 is subtraction of 5.2. We will subtract 5.2 from both sides of this equation. 5.2 minus 5.2 is 0. We have 0.5x equals 3.6 minus 5.2. And the quick way to do this is to take the greater minus the lesser. 5.2 minus 3.6. 12 minus 6 is 6, decimal point 1. And if 5.2 minus 3.6 is 1.6, then 3.6 minus 5.2 equals negative 1.6. I don't know if you want to call that a mathematical trick, but that's how I do them in my head. So 3.6 minus 5.2 is negative 1.6. Now we have the number 0.5, that's the coefficient multiplied here to the x. To solve for x, we divide by that very same coefficient, 0.5. So we have x equals negative divided by positive is negative, and we can double check in our calculator that 1.6 divided by 0.5 is 3.2. So the solution is x equals negative 3.2. Solve the equation negative 2.3 equals 1.7 plus 0.2x. We're going to solve for x. X is part of this term over here, and we have a 1.7, a positive 1.7 added to that x term. So we're going to have to deal with this term 1.7 first. Since this 1.7 is positive, we're going to add its opposite, which is negative 1.7. That will be added to both sides of the equation. 1.7 plus negative 1.7 is 0. So on the right side of the equation we have a positive 0.2x. We can drop that plus sign since there are no other terms over here. If this happened to be a minus sign right here, we could not drop it when we came to the next line. On the left side we have negative 2.3 plus negative 1.7. We're adding two numbers that have the same sign. So on a side here, we're going to add their absolute values, which are positive 2.3 and 1.7. You get 4.0, but negative plus negative is even more negative. So we have negative 4.0 equals 0.2x. To solve for x, we divide in order to undo this multiplication. We divide both sides by 0.2. 0.2 divided by 0.2 is 1. On the right side we have 1 times x, or more simply x. And on the left side of the equation we have negative divided by positive, which is negative, and 4.0 divided by 0.2. Here's a quick way to do it in your head. I can move both these decimals to the right once, then I have 40 divided by 2, which is 20. So we have the solution x equal negative 20. We're supposed to check this. So this negative 20 is going to go in place of this x right here. So we have negative 2.3 equals 1.7 plus 0.2 times, here's where we insert in parentheses, negative 20. Is this a true statement? But order of operations, we need to make this calculation, this multiplication first. 0.2 times negative 20 is negative 4. So we have negative 2.3 equals 1.7 plus negative 4. We have to decide whether or not that's true. And plus and negative is the same thing as writing minus. So we have 1.7 minus 4. Now, to do positive minus a bigger number like this, like 4, we can reverse it and do 4 minus 1.7, writing 4.0. 10 minus 7 is 3. We have 2.3. And so 4 minus 1.7 is 2.3. Again, my quick trick, if I reverse them, 1.7 minus 4, which is actually what we're after over here, that's negative 2.3. And so we have indeed a true statement, which means that x equals negative 20 is the solution. Solve the equation 5x plus 2x plus 3 equals 14 plus 10. Then check the solution. In this particular case, on the left side of the equal sign over here, we have like terms, 5x plus 2x. And 5x plus 2x is 7x. So we have 7x plus 3 equals, on the right side of the equation there are two like terms. 14 plus 10 is 24. Now we just have a single x term. Positive 3 is added to it, so we're going to add the opposite of positive 3. We're going to add negative 3 to both sides of this equation. Plus negative 3 plus negative 3. Positive 3 plus negative 3 is 0. It gives us 7x. 24 plus negative 3 is the same thing as 24 minus 3, which is 21. And finally, we have multiplication by 7, which we undo by dividing both sides by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 1 times x is more simply written as x. X equals 21 divided by 7, which is 3. We're going to put this 3 wherever we see an x. So we have 5 times 3 plus 2 times 3, putting 3 in for x in these two different places, plus 3 as we continue to write the original equation, equals 14 plus 10. Question mark. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 2 times 3 is 6, plus 3 equals 14 plus 10. 15 plus 6 is 21, plus 3 equals 14 plus 10 is 24. That's definitely a true statement, which means that x equals 3 is the solution. Solve the equation 5/8 minus 1/4 equals 2x plus 3. Then check the solution. On the left side of the equation, we have two like terms. They're both constants. They don't have variables. So we're going to deal with them by adding them or subtracting them together. They're fractions, so they need a common denominator. And 8 and 4 both divide into 8 without remainder. So I don't need to change 5/8. It has the 8 denominator I want. But this 1/4 I'm going to multiply by 2 to give me 8 down here. Multiply by 2 up here. So I have 5/8 minus 2/8 equals 2x plus 3. And 5/8 minus 2/8 is 3/8. So I have 3/8 equals 2x plus 3. To isolate this x term, I need to deal with this plus 3. And I will do that by adding -3 to both sides of this equation. Three plus -3 is 0. So on the right hand side I have 2x. On the left hand side I have 3/8 plus -3. Let's work on that over here on the side. Let's write that -3 as -3 divided by 1. The common denominator is 8, so I'll multiply by 8 in the second fraction. So that gives me 3/8 plus -24/8. 3 plus -24. So essentially what I need to do is figure out 3 minus 24. Here's a quick way. Let's do 24 minus 3. Reversing them. That gives us 21. So that means 3 minus 24 is -21. So I have -21 over the common denominator 8. Last step is to deal with this multiplication of 2 to the variable x. Now, the way we might generally approach this is to divide both sides by 2, and we could do that. But if we also understand that the number 2 is a whole number, 2 divided by 1, so 2 divided by 1 times x, and then I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 2 divided by 1. Which is 1/2. Multiplying both sides by 1/2. Any number times its reciprocal is 1. So I have 1 times x, or more simply x, equals, and on the left side we have multiplying through the numerators. 1 times -21 is -21. Multiplying through the denominators, 2 times 8 is 16. And that is our solution. X equals -21/16. Solve the equation 2 times a quantity 3 minus x plus 4x equals -3 plus 7. We will start by distributing. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times -x is -2x. Bringing down the rest of the terms in equal sign, we have plus 4x equals -3 plus 7. On each side of the equal sign, we will look for like terms. We have 2x terms right here. The coefficient here is -2. The coefficient here is plus 4. And -2 plus 4, same thing as 4 minus 2, is 2. So we have 2x terms added together, giving us another x term. So we have 2x, bring down that plus 6. That plus 6 came from here. Equals -3 plus 7. -3 plus 7 is the same thing as positive 7. Take away 3, which is 4. So we have 2x plus 6 equals 4. To isolate this x term, we will subtract 6 from both sides of this equation. 6 minus 6 is 0. 2x plus 0 is simply 2x. And we have 4 minus 6, If we're at 4 on the number line, we subtract 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We wind up at negative 2. 4 minus 6 is negative 2. Then finally, since 2x means 2 times x, we will divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 1 times x is written more simply as x. Here we have negative divided by positive, and that's negative. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Our answer is x equals negative 1.